Moscow, who did such a gorgeous job with our morning services. Thank you both. And we are going to begin our Torah service in just a moment. I want to re-encourage you to have your video camera on if you're willing to do so, so you can all look around and see each other and be present with each other in that way. Go ahead and use the chat, say hi, share holiday greetings, and please participate. Sing along loud, sing along at home, sing along with whomever you're with, and enjoy the day's reading. Our Zoom technician is Shelly Sadon. And if you have a question about something technical, you can send a chat to her. We won't be able to see it or respond to it. And with that, let's turn to page 192 as our Torah service begins with Ein Kamocha. Ein kamocha va'Elohim Adonai, ve'ein kemasecha, malchutecha malchut kol olamim, u'memshaltecha bechol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai imloch, leolam va'ed, Adonai uz le'amo yitin, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Av harachamim eitiv avirtzonecha et Zion. Tivne chomot Yerushalayim. Tivne chomot Yerushalayim. Ki bechol levad batach lo, melech elam v'nisa, Adon olamim. And by Zoom, I call up Doreen Robotnik to open our Ark, our Aron, and we will be your hands for this service. We continue on page 194. Please rise in body or spirit. Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'Chanun, Erech Apayim, V'Rav Chesed v'Emet, Notzer Chesed la'alafim, Noser Avon v'Fesha, V'Chata v'Nakir, Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'Chanun, Erech Apayim, V'Rav Chesed v'Emet, Notzer Chesed la'alafim, Noser Avon v'Fesha, V'Chata v'Nakir, Adonai, Adonai, El Rachum v'Chanun, Erech Apayim, V'Rav Chesed v'Emet, Notzer Chesed la'alafim, Noser Avon v'Fesha, V'Chata v'Nakir. Adonai, Adonai, El רחום וחנון, ערך אפיים ורב חסד ואמת, נוצר חסד לאלפים, נושא עוון ופשע וחטא ונקי. ואני תפילתי לך אדוני את רצון אלוהים ברוב חסדך ענני באמת ישתך. I call on Doug Wiggins and Kaylee Miller to read on page 197 for us.
Almighty God, reverently we stand before the Torah, your most precious gift to us, the sacred scriptures, which our ancestors learned and taught. Preserve for us a heritage unto all generations. May we, their children's children, honor its every word. May we find as they did new evidence of you and its precepts, and rich in wisdom in its teaching.
And we begin a new year. May the Torah be our tree of life, our shield and our guide. May we take its teachings to our hearts and thus draw nearer to you in loyalty, in truth, and in love. Amen.
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 We turn now to page 196 for Be Anarachetz. Be Anarachetz, Lishme Kadisha, Kadisha Yakiro, Anayimar Tushbechan, Be'anarachetz, Be'anarachetz, Lishme Kadisha, Kadisha Yakiro, Anayimar Tushbechan, Ye'ra'ava kadamach, Tiftach libi bioraita, v'tashlim mishalim delibi, v'libadech olamach Yisrael, v'tavul chayim v'lishlam. Amen. On page 198, we continue. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh v'nora shemo.
Echad Chol bashamayim u'aretz Adonai Amalacha Yamid Nahaseh Echol Lerosh Romemu Romemu
Adonai Eloheinu, ve'ishtachavu, le'adam raglav kadoshu, romemu,
Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavu
ve'ishtachavu, le'ol tzvosho. As we move through these aliyot, I'll call people up. If you're taking an aliyah in person, you'll come up here and we'll give you some space. For folks who are taking an aliyah on Zoom, you will be able to see and hear them as well. So for our first aliyah, it is my honor to call up Sue Schwam. ויעזור ויגן ויושיע לכל החוסים בו ונאמר אמן. הכל אבוגות אל אלוהינו תנו כבוד לתורה. תעמוד שולמית בת שלמה הכהן לעלייה הראשונה. ברוך שנתן תורה לעמו ישראל בקדושתו. ואתם הדבקים באדוני אלוהיכם חיים כולכם היום. I'll show you and we'll just do like an air kiss.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher Bacha banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Our first reading will be chanted by Maya Elkind. I will follow along here. Whenever you're ready, Maya, you can start.
Oh, I'm unmuted. Good.
Yes.
All right. Vadonai, hold on. Vadonai, Hakad, et Sarah, Ka'asher Amar, Vayas Adonai L'Sarah Ka'asher Diber Vatar Vateled Sarah LeAvraham Bein Liskunav Lamoed Asher Diber Oto Elohim Vayikra Avraham et Shem Beno Hanawad Lo Asher Yaleda Lo Sarah Yitzhak Vayamo Avraham et Yitzhak Beno Ben Shemonat Yamim Ka'asher Sivato Elohim.
Yashar kochech. It's beautiful.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, b'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
For our second aliyah, which will be read over Zoom by Jocelyn Lamprin, I call up Stuart Mandel. Ya'amod Shmuel ben Binyamin u'mena Halevi la'aliyah hashni'ah.
Baruch Hu es Adonai Hamborach.
Baruch Adonai Amvorach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach Le'olam Voed. Baruch Ato Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher b'chabona mikol hamim. V'notan lanu et Torato. Baruch Ato Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Jocelyn, are you with us? Oh, you're muted. Okay. Shelley, could you make her a co-host or invite her to unmute?
Yes, sorry, I'm just trying to find in the,
I think her first name is on there as Jacqueline.
oh, okay. ואברהם בן 100 שנה, בהיוולדו יצחק בנו. ותאמר שרה צהוב עשה לי אלוהים, כל השומע
Yitahali Vatomer Mi Milel Avraham Heini Kavanim Sarah Kilati Vain Liskunav Vaigdal Hayaled Vaigama Vayas Ham Ishtagadol Beyom Yigamel Elitak Sarah.
ישר כוחך. תודה רבה. המצרית אשר ילדה לאברהם מצחק ותאמר לאברהם גרי שמה הזאת בתנך כי לא יירש בן המה הזאת עם בני עם יצחק וירא הדבר מאוד בעיני אברהם על אודות בנו ויאמר אלוהים אל אברהם אל יירא בעיניך על הנער ועל אמתך כל אשר תאמר אליך שרה שמע בקולך כי ביצחק יקרא לך זרע. Stuart, I think you're muted.
Baruch atah Adonai. Am I still muted?
Nope, we can hear you now. You're good.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emes v'chayei olam natan b'sochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yeshar kochechem. Thank you so much, Jocelyn, for that beautiful reading. For our third aliyah, I call up Stuart and Meryl Holber. Ya'amdu Shmuel Moshe ben Avraham v'Sara v'Meryl la'aliyah hashlishit.
Baruch es Adonai HaMorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Thanks.
Hold on. Okay. Amen. וגם את בן המה לגוי ישימנו, כי זרע הוא. וישכם אברהם בבוקר, ויקח לחם, וחמאת מים, ויצן אל הגגר, שם אל שכמה, ואת הילד ושלחך, ותלך ותצא במדבר, באר שבע, ויכלו את המים מן החמת, ותשלך את הילד תחת אחד השיחים, ותלך
ותשב לה מנגד, הרחק קים תהבי קשת, כי היא אמרה אל אראה במות הילד. ותשב מנגד, ותישא את קולה ותבך. וישמע אלוהים את כל הנער, ויקרא מלאך אלוהים אל הגר מן השמיים, ויאמר לה הגר, אל תיראי, ראי, כי שמע אלוהים על כל הנהר באשר הוא שם. קומי, שאי את הנהר, והחזיקי את ידך בו, לגוי גדול עשימנו. ויפקח אלוהים את עיניה, ותראה בארי מים, ותלך תמלא את חכמת מים, ותשק את הנער. ויהי אלוהים את הנער ויגדל, וישב במדבר, ויהי רווק השת. וישב בבר פרן, תיקח לו אמו אישה מארץ מצרים.
We can't quite hear you. There we go. Looks like you just unmuted.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Toras emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yashar kochechem. For the fourth Aliyah, I call up Judy Kroner. Ta'amod Yehudit Bar Chaim V'Leah l'Aliyah harvi'it.
Baruch et Adonai Hambarach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. And our fourth Aliyah will be chanted by Kimberly Callan.
Vayehi ba'et hahi, vayomer Avimelech, ufichol tsar tavo el Avraham, lemor, Elohim imacha, bechol asher ata oseh. Ve'ata Isha ve'ali Elohim heina im tishkor li ulnini ulnechdi kachased asher asiti imacha taseh imadi ve'im haaretz asher garta ba. Vayomer Avraham Anochi Ishaveya, V'hochiach Avraham et Avimelech alodot ba'er ha'amayim asher gazelu avdei Avimelech. Vayomer Avimelech lo yadati מי עשה את הדבר הזה, וגם אתה לא הגדת לי, וגם אנוכי לא שמעתי בלתי היום. ויקח אברהם צאן ובקר, ויתן לאבימלך, ויכרתו שניהם ברית.
יישר כוחך.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. For our fifth Aliyah, I call up Mitch and Trudy Zakin, and it will be read by Phil. Ya'amdu Moshe ben David Avram Halevi, Ubrenda Ufesia bat Shaul Malka Halevi, L'Aliyah HaChamishit.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yatsev Avraham Sheva. Give us out. Hatzeon Varen. Vayomer Avimelech El Avraham Maheina Sheva. Give us out Ele Asher Yitzhavta Levarana. Vayomer ki et sheva kivasot tikach miadi bavor tieli leda ki hafarti et bairazot al kain kara lemakom ma'u bershava ki sham nishbeu shneim V'yikratu b'ri b'Beersheva, v'yikam Avimelech, u'v'chol sar tzvaho, v'yashuvu el eretz Plishtim, v'yita'eh shel b'Beersheva, v'yikra sham, b'shem Adonai el olam, v'yagar Avraham, Eretz Plishtim, Yamim Rabim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. And the Chatzi Kaddish can be found on page 208. Yitgadal, Yitgadal Shemei Rabbah, Yalmad Ivrach Irutei, Yamlich Malchutei, B'chayechon, Uv'yomeichon, Uv'chayei Dechol Beit Yisrael. Bagalav Isman Koriv Ve'yimeru Amen. Yehesh Merabam Varach Le'olam Yameomaya Yitbarach Yitbarach Ve'yishtabach Ve'yitba'ar V'yitramam V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitalev V'yitalal Shemei Dekudisha Brichu Liela Uliela Min Kol Bechata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Tamiram Ve'alma Vimru Amen.
We are going to pause at this time with both of our Sifrei Torah out for two Misha Berachs. The first is a prayer for healers and essential workers in a time of coronavirus. I wrote this at Rabbi Rachel's suggestion last year, and we are at a time where I think we need to say it again. So I'll read it. I'll read the names of those essential workers and healers of whom I am aware in our community, but please, as I go through this prayer, put the names of anybody else who you want known into the chat so that we can all know them, honor them, and pray for their well-being. Misha Berach Horenu, Sarava Avraham, Yitzchak, Rivka, Leah, Rachel, Yaakov. May the one who blessed our ancestors, upheld and protected them through danger and despair, uphold and protect the essential workers who serve our community in this time of illness and peril. Bless the healthcare providers and social workers, the grocery clerks, the delivery truck drivers, and the postal service workers. Bless the teachers and the childcare providers. Bless the staff of restaurants, cafes, and bars. Bless the pharmacy technicians. Bless the customer service workers and the industrial workers. Please bless especially those in our community: Michelle Berry, Dr. Malcolm Bodette, Stephanie Bodette, Laura Bender, Jackie Berman, Teresa Brugman, Rachel Bryant, Dr. Donald Chabot, Martha Chazanoff, Fred Colton, Lisa Desberg, Julie and Seth Einhorn, Margie Gaines, Kate and Jackie Gladstein, Karen Godek, Michelle Goldstein, Lisa Herzl, Michelle Howden, Naomi Kapanga Njibu, Dr. Doron Corono, Jocelyn Lamprin, Brianna Larson, Zachary Martin, Arthur and Katie Miller, Kaylee Miller, Amy and Emily Moldoff, Cheryl Levine Newman, Dr. Shira Novak, Karen Butkow, Tim Redding, Carol Teitelbaum, Dr. Tsai, Melissa Goldstein, Melanie, Michelle Howden, Naomi Kapanga Njibu, Dr. Doron Corono, Jocelyn Lamprin, Brianna, Zachary Martin, Arthur and Katie Miller, Kaylee Miller, Amy and Emily Moldoff, Cheryl Levine Newman, Dr. Shira Novak, Karen Butkow, Tim Redding, Carol Teitelbaum, Dr. Tsai, Melissa Goldstein, Michelle Howden, Naomi Kapanga Njibu, Dr. Doron Corono. Are we good? We're good. Bless all those who bring their bodies and breath close to other people's bodies and breath in order to feed us, care for us, keep stores open and supplies delivered, and teach our children while the pandemic keeps the rest of us distanced. Bless them with health of body and spirit. Bless them with strength of limb and purpose. Bless them with joy and refreshment. May they be met each day with the gratitude and the support that they deserve. May each person with whom they interact mask and vaccine if eligible, and distance appropriately, and respect the risks they take on our behalf. Shomer Yisrael, guardian of all who struggle daily, ease their struggles and smooth their paths. Keep sickness and fear from them. Bless them in their going out, and bless them in their coming home. And together we say, Amen. At this time, we're also going to make a Misha Berach for all who are in need of healing, whether it's from disaster, personal crisis, illness, or any other cause. Please, again, feel free to put names into the chat or to hold in your heart. If you're here in the sanctuary, feel free to speak out loud. Anybody for whom you want prayers like this at this auspicious beginning to a new year that we pray will be one full of health and life and goodness and sweetness. Let's sing together. And let us say Amen. Nisheberach imotenu mekor haberacha le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. It is now my privilege to call up over Zoom a pair of people whose happiness is blessing the beginning of this year to be our Magbia and our Golelet. I call up Andrew Starr and Melanie Zakin over Zoom for that honor. Ya amdu sason Kalman ben Yaakov ur Enabero v'Yitzchaka Avichaya bat Moshe Ufesia lehagbaha uglila. Please rise, everybody, in body or in spirit. We're on page 208 as we raise and then dress our first Sefer Torah. Vezot HaTorah asher son Moshe lifnei Israel avi Adonai beyad Moshe. Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 tziva lanu Moshe. Toda rabah and yeshar kochachem. I could see over the screen that was just a beautiful Hagba and Galila at home. Thank you both. You may be seated. And for our maftir aliyah, our maftira for this morning is Angie Lucia, and so Phil is going to do the aliyah on her behalf, and then he'll chant our maftir reading. And the maftir aliyah can be found on page 210. 210 in your books. Ya'amod Yehuda Avraham ben Mendel Halevi ben Malka bimkom Angie Amaftir.
Baruch hu et Adonai Avarach. Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah. ובחודש השביעי, באחד לחודש, מקרא קודש יהיה לכם. כל מלאכת עבודה לא תעשו, יום תרועה יהיה לכם. עשיתם מלאכה, לו ריח ניחוח לאדוני, פר בן בקר, אחד אל אחד, כבשים בני שנה. שבעה תמימים ומנחתם סולת ולא בשמן, 3 יסרונים לפר, 2 יסרונים לעיל, ויסרון אחד לכבש אחד, ל7 כבשים, ושעיר עזים אחד חטאת לכפר עליכם, מלבד עולת החודש ומנחתם, לעולת התמיד מנחתם ונזקיהם כמשפטם, לריח ניחוח אישה לאדוני. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Yeah. And again by Zoom, I call up Andrew and Mayumi Levine for Hagba and Galila for our second Sefer Torah. Ya'amdu Avraham ben Yaakov Meir v'Leah v'Ahava bat Taiko u'Misko lehagbaha u'Galila. We are on the bottom of page 210 as our second Sefer Torah is lifted and then dressed.
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל על פי אדוני ביד משה.
על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, העולם עומד. על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, העולם עומד. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל גמילות חסדים. 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 May be seated. And now it is my privilege to invite Angie Lucia to join us by Zoom with our blessings before the Haftarah, our Haftarah reading for today and the blessings after. So you can find those on the blessings before on page 212 in your Machzor. Our Haftarah reading is the first 10 verses of chapter 2 of Samuel, of Shmuel. And that's on page 217. And then the blessings after the Haftarah are page 232. Angie, take it away. Shelley, are you able to bring up Angie?
Yes, I'm just unmuting.
So this is the video of Angie reading Haftarah.
I'm not sure why it's not unmuting. Oh.
Do you want to make me a co-host and I can play it from the computer in here?
Yes. I apologize. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Well, I can't unmute myself.
Oh, there you go.
I'm not muted, except for this. What does that mean?
I apologize. It seems that we are not able to make that play. So I'm going to chant the Haftarah, but we are going to put up the video of Angie chanting so that you folks can listen to it after the service is over. Unless Shelley, is the sound working now for you?
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim v'ratza b'divreihem chanemarim be'emet Baruch atah Adonai Habocher Batorah Uv'Moshe Avdo Uv'Yisrael Amo Uv'Nvi'ei Ha'emet V'Tzedek
Amen.
V'Titpalel Hana V'Tomar Allah נחmats libi Badonai Rama Karni Badonai Rachavki Al Oyebai Ki Samachti Meshuatecha Ein Kadosh Kadonai Ki Ein Biltecha Ve'ein Sur Keloheinu Al Tarbu Tedaberu Givohach Yetzeatak Mipichem Ki El Deot Adonai Velo Nitkanu Alilot Keshet Giborim Chatim Venichshalim Azaru Chayil Seveim Balechem Niskaru Urevim Chadelu Arakara Yalda Shiva Verabat Banim Lala Adonai Meimitum Chaya Morid Sheol Vaya'al Adonai Morid Shema Ashir Mashpio Afmeromen Mekime Afar Dal Meashpot Yarim Evyon Lahoshiv Inidivim V'chisei Chavod Inchilem Ki Ladonai Mitzukei Eretz Vayashet Alechem Tevel Raglei Chasidav Yishmor Urshaim B'choshech Yidamu Ki lo v'choach Yigbar Ish Adonai Yechatu Meriva Alav Bashamayim Yarem Adonai Yadin Av Se'aretz V'yiten Oz L'malko V'yarem Keren Mishicho Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Tzor Kol HaOlamim Tzadik B'chol HaDorot Ha'el HaNa'eman HaOmer V'oseh HaMedaber U'Mekayem Shechu Devarav Emet V'Tzedek Ne'eman Atahu Adonai Eloheinu V'ne'emanim Devarecha V'davar echad midvarecha Achor lo yashuv reikam Ki el melech ne'eman V'rachaman ata Baruch ata Adonai Ha'el ha'ne'eman V'chol devarav
Amen.
Rachem al Tzion ki beichayenu V'la'aluvat nefesh toshia b'mheira v'yameinu Baruch ata Adonai Mesameach Zion Devanecha Samcheinu Adonai Eloheinu Eliyahu hanavi avdecha U'malchut beit avi Meshichecha B'mheira yavo v'yagel libeinu Al kisolo yeshev zar v'lo yinchalu Od acherim et kevodo Ki v'shem kodeshcha nishbata lo, shelo yichpene ro le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen David.
Amen.
Al HaTorah ve'al Havodah ve'al HaNevi'im ve'al Yom HaZikaron hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu lechavod u'tifaret. Al HaKol Adonai Eloheinu anachnu modim lach u'mbarchim otach. Yitbarach Shimcha befi kochai tamid olam va'ed. Udvarcha emet v'kayam la'ad. Baruch atah Adonai melech al kol ha'aretz mekadesh Yisrael b'yom hazikaron.
Amen. Yashar kochech to Angie on a totally beautiful reading. Thank you. It is now my privilege to call Isabel Nagy to open virtually the Ark for us. We're going to have all of the Torahs standing at attention as our Baal Tekiah, our President Lauren Goldstein, blows shofar for us. So I invite him up as well. And the liturgy for this is on page 245. Michelle Howden and Charles Chernov are going to give us the kavanah for these shofar blasts. Come on up. Learn to flip them to this side and then they can, flip them to this side of the Dina and I'll flip them to this side of the Dina. Good.
The shofar transforms that which is of this world, the breath into something entirely new, something of the world to come. With our voices, we cry out in sorrow. We cry out for justice. We raise our voices through the call of the shofar. God of transformation, God of teshuvah, may this call of the shofar be a bridge between Olam Ha'etz and Olam Haba. May this call reaffirm for us that just as we can be transformed in the season of turning, our world too can be transformed.
Our blessing for the blowing of the shofar is on page 245. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lishmoa kol shofar. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehecheyanu v'kiyamanu v'higiyanu hazaman hazeh. Tekiah Shivarim. Tekiah. Tekiah. Shivarim Teruah. Tekiah. Tekiah. Shivarim Teruah. Tekiah. And at the bottom of page 246, please join me in reading, "Give heed to the sound of the shofar, the loud clarion call of the shofar. bringing new hope to the suffering and strength to those stricken with sorrow, bringing to Israel assurance of healing, peace, and redemption. Renew your faith and devotion to God's Torah, people, and land. Remember the covenant and fashion a kingdom of law and compassion. Give heed to the sound of the shofar, the blast that is blown, O my people. Tekiah. Teruah. Tekiah. Tekiah. Teruah. Tekiah. Tekiah. Shavarim. Tekiah. Give heed to the sound of the shofar, the shrill quivering notes of the shofar, sounding its message of warning, its cry of alarm and awakening, urging us to labor together to combat war and violence. Accept the challenge to battle against fear, hate, and destruction. Remove from your midst all oppression, banish all greed and contention. Give heed to the sound of the shofar, the blast that is blown, O my people. Tekiah. Teruah. Tekiah. Tekiah. Teruah. Tekiah. Tekiah. Teruah. Tekiah Gedolah. Ashri Ham Yodei Teruah Adonai Be'or Panecha Yehalichun. Yasher Koach. We remain standing as we turn to page 252 and we prepare to return our Sifrei Torah to the Ark. Yehalelu et Shem Adonai, ki nizkav shemo levado. Adol eretz v'shamayim, v'yorem keren, keren nehamo. Tehila lechol chasidov, livnei Yisrael am gerovo. Hallelujah. And as the doors of the ark prepare to close, we turn to the bottom of page 258. Kilekach tov natati lachem, Torati al tazovu, Etz chaim hi lamachazikim
bo v'tolachecha me'oshar deracheha darchei noam ve'netivoteha shalom. Hashivenu Adonai elecha b'nashuva kadesh yameinu kekedem.
And as Isabel's hands, we close the ark. You may be seated. It is my joy and privilege to call up our temple president, Lauren Goldstein, to address us with a few words.
Thank you, Cantavera. Good morning and Happy New Year. Today will be my final address to the community as its president. You must be asking yourself, how is Lauren Goldstein still the president of Temple Emanu-El of Haverhill? Well, a funny thing happened 6 years ago at our annual meeting. With no one willing to accept the role of board chair, I stepped up for our community. Normally, the president serves a 2-year term, but with our board chair, Jen Lampron, planning Jacqueline's bat mitzvah, we agreed that my term would be 3, and with COVID, it became 4. We've accomplished much over the last 4 years: a food allergy policy, Sunday-only religious school, the replacement of the roof over the gymnasium, the completion of our 501c3 application, and a new tenant, the City of Haverhill, thanks to our friends at Pentucket Bank. These are just to name a few. Our finances have, for years, been the topic of many board discussions, and at the conclusion of my address, please stay tuned for a very special message. With the replacement of our roof, this is a particularly good time to thank the members of our investment committee and the Beaton Management Company. The monies to replace the roof will come from our endowment, and we do have to replace these funds. 2 other short-term expenditures may include the replacement of the carpet in the Main Street foyer and the restoration of the railings on Main Street. I've heard that many congregants have asked about Rabbi Rachel. When she was hired, I proposed a 2-year contract. Rabbi Rachel preferred a 1-year contract. The contract expired, and the terms moving forward did not permit us to come to an agreement. We're very happy to have our new rabbinic intern, Ellie Prepas, for the upcoming year. Welcome, Ellie. Now let's circle back to the beginning. Just as 6 years ago, we do not have a first vice president or chairman of the board to replace Jen in 2 years. Many times over the past 4 years, I have asked for community involvement in our board of directors. Today, I ask again for you to get involved. As I mentioned earlier, although I enjoy leading our community, the time has come for you to play a part in its future. Thank you, and may your new year be filled with good blessings and joy. Shana Tova.
Shana Tova. And now we will hear from 2 congregants with the help of a third. First is Joy Sylvie.
So why do I donate to Temple Emanu-El? I think that strong communities are built on a foundation of 2 things. People, it's important to have people showing up and participating, helping one another. But also communities need resources, primarily financial resources, to really thrive. And as someone who is fortunate to have the economic means, it's felt important for me to share some of my resources with this community. I have appreciated having this space to connect with others and share milestones and life cycle events, deepen my spiritual self, and also learn through our adult education programming, Rabbi Rachel's Jewish feminism class or Canterbury's God and Suffering class, both happened this past year, as well as the author series. And there are costs associated with developing that kind of programming and also maintaining a physical space, a building, even one that we haven't been able to gather in for the past year. And even the technology to support remote services like this and to keep our space accessible. And even as we in the future transition back to some in-person hybrid online, the technology that makes that possible also has a cost. I think it's also important to remember that not everyone in our community has the same amount of financial resources. And so for someone like me who does feel very blessed to have, I think, more than I need for my daily living expenses, it feels important for me to share those resources to help keep the space accessible for all. So thank you so much to this community. It's been so wonderful being involved.
Thank you, Joy. And now, with the help of a very special interviewer, we will hear from Stuart Mandel.
L'Shana Tova. I have been given the privilege of interviewing Temple President for Life, Stuart Mandel. I have asked him about how he feels his personal contributions have impacted the temple and himself. You've been a member of Temple Emanu-El for such a long time. You've donated your time and money. Which of those do you think have been most beneficial to you in the temple?
Well, the feeling of belonging. I always get a warm feeling when I, for example, attend a service and other people are there, and it's a feeling of togetherness, I think, that most influences me.
What is the biggest benefit that the temple has given you?
Well, it's enabled me to meet a lot of people who I probably would not have met if I wasn't involved with the temple. A lot of the members, officers, and so on. And so it's the people part of it that really has been the best part.
And what kinds of impacts have you seen in the temple community based on the time and the money that you have donated?
Well, I don't like to talk about the money I've donated. I do it because of feeling that I can do it. And I support what the temple is attempting. Paying, for example, for the painting of the sides of the building was just that it made me feel better to see a nice looking wall rather than the crumbling paint that had been there since the building was erected. Making sure that the Zoom system was working the way that a cantor would like. It was a pleasure to donate and pay for that. So, you know, my feeling is I can afford it. I want to do it, and so I do it.
Toda rabah to Stuart, to Adam, to Joy for all of the ways in which you are contributing to our community and for bringing your voices into this space. It's my privilege now to share a few words of Torah with you this morning. So when I was in high school, my sister's house burned down. The first thing I knew about it was Britt and her husband and 3 young kids arriving in our home in the middle of the night, smelling of smoke, eyes tired, faces tight with fear. They were fine, but an electrical fire had started in their rented Lexington house among some cords late at night. My niece had woken up, don't know why, smelled smoke, roused her parents. They grabbed their kids, they grabbed their wallets, they grabbed a few photos, and that was it. Everything else burned. For several weeks, they slept on our beds and living room couches, a paper screen hastily put up for privacy. Their flight from home because of that fire reverberated for decades in our family. It interrupted their school, their work, and regular sleep. It was traumatic. It had intense financial and emotional consequences. And they were lucky. They had us to come to. Like my niece, I too woke up on a late July morning this year to the smell of smoke. Only this smoke came from across the country. This smoke was from the bootleg fire in California, in our Massachusetts air, in my nostrils. The West burned again this summer. Record temperatures, terrible fires. Mid-August, NPR reported on an unprecedented drought in the Colorado River, which will, for I believe the first time ever, force communities along it to begin reducing their water usage. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change released a report in early August, and human activity and pollution have heated our planet up past 1 degree Celsius, with more catastrophic warming still to come. And we feel the effects of this warming already, not just in hotter temperatures and in uncontrollable wildfires. We feel it too in water. Extreme floods, changed rainfall patterns, and droughts. Hurricane Ida just last week killed scores of people from flooding, and thousands remain without power. The hour is late, but it is not too late for meaningful action. Dr. Elizabeth Sowen wrote on Twitter on August 6th, the night before the release of that report. She said, "Repeat after me. Every fraction of a degree of increased global warming averted is suffering, both of human and non-human averted. Just because you cannot stop all suffering is not a reason to not prevent what suffering you can. There is no giving up, my friends," she wrote. Also, there are tipping points in the human heart and collective consciousness that could be just as sudden and just as big as any in the Earth system. Just because the IPCC isn't charged with documenting them does not mean they don't exist, latent, stirring to life. And there is nothing worse than giving up just shy of a tipping point and no way to know how close you might be. So Dr. Sowen wrote, in our liturgy, in our Sidurim, our Machzor, Rosh HaShanah yikatevun, Uvyom Tzom Kippur yechatemun. We'll sing those words together again in just a little while, but on Rosh Hashanah, it is written, and on Yom Kippur it is sealed, who by fire and who by water, who by earthquake and who by plague. But teshuvah, restorative action, and tefillah, spiritual self-support, and tzedakah, acts of justice, acts of redistributing precious resources, ma'avirin et roa hagezera. These cause the worst of the decree to pass away. Never has our liturgy been more literally, globally true. We know that climate change is here. We know that we cannot avoid it, but we can avert the worst ravages of the climate change that was decreed by our past relationship with the earth. If we cultivate life-saving, massive global changes in practice, green can grow back through the ash of those fires. A famous midrash in the name of Rabbi Yitzchak in Breshit Rabbah compares Avraham to a man who is journeying and comes across a burning palace. Is it possible that this palace has nobody to look after it? The man asks, whereupon its owner looks out from the palace and says, I am the master of this palace. Similarly, Avraham, seeing the universe, asks, is it possible that the universe lacks a person to look after it? And the Kadosh Baruch Hu, the Holy Blessed One, looks at Avraham and says, I am the master of this universe. Our actions, like God's, can make and can also break life on earth. And we shouldn't abandon a house or a world on fire. We can stay in it and try to make it better. Self-interest and moral obligation walk hand in hand here. Combating climate change is also an issue of social justice. Fire losses disproportionately affect people with fewer resources. That's poor countries and poorer individuals. I remember in 2017, and perhaps you do too, Grenfell Tower, a British apartment block in West London in which mostly immigrant families lived, went up in flames. It was swathed in this cheap external cladding that was being used for construction that wasn't as flame retardant as it should have been. And it caught fire with terrifying speed. There were sprinkler systems inside. They'd been out of order for months. Residents had complained. Nothing had been done. More than 80 people died that night. So safety measures undertaken for poorer people are not always, but are too often inadequate. And as long as the people in power are not directly affected, change is slow. Folks with thin margins of survival are also hit hardest by changes in their environment, in their climate that are beyond their control. Enormous numbers of people are now climate refugees, fleeing from Earth that will no longer support the growing seasons and the crops and the occupations that have traditionally helped them stay alive. Climate change damages national economies, and as a consequence, it's also a national security issue. The World Bank estimated in 2018 that more than 140 million people by 2050 will be forced to move because of environmental factors. And we see it already. Climate refugees flee from Syria, from fields in Honduras and Guatemala that will no longer grow coffee or corn and beans because the earth is hotter and the rains are no longer regular. They flee from more variable and dramatic weather that threatens both family and livestock husbandry in the East and the Horn of Africa, Somalia, the Sudan, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Many climate refugees, as we have experienced, end up at the borders of the USA, trying to come in. But our country is not an island, and climate change is here too. It is not a potential issue. It's not a future issue. It's happening right now. And so it needs immediate work to mitigate. And this problem, my friends, can feel as overpowering as God, right? As overpowering as God's self. How do we move this? How do we move this needle? But we have to try. To quote Rabbi Benjamin Franklin on the eve of the American Revolution, we must hang together, or most assuredly, we will all hang separately. Or as the climate prophet Bill McKibben said, the best thing an individual can do right now is to become less of an individual. People who study and combat climate change have been telling us for generations that only a worldwide group effort is going to succeed. This is no longer an individual effort. We have to do this together. And I think of the work of Festivales Solidarios, an environmental activist organization in Guatemala. Their members were attacked with machetes last year while they were trying to prevent illegal logging in a forest. And these folks, these members of Festivales, they know that their survival is not possible without the Earth's health and without mutual worldwide aid and cooperation. Opportunities for communal action are thick on the ground. There is a Jewish organization, Dayenu, specifically dedicated to supporting climate change activism and Jewish neshamot, the souls invested in this work. Its name, Dayenu, means both we've had enough of climate destruction and we are enough for the work of saving humanity. Members of our Temple Social Action Committee are investigating starting a Dayenu Circle, a group of people who will meet monthly to find and share both spiritual support and action opportunities. Social Action Committee member Karen Godek will speak about our Jewish environmental connection and responsibilities this afternoon at Tashlich at 5. And the year to come will bring more opportunities for education and for advocacy. So please talk to me or Karen or another Social Action Committee member if you would like to become part of a Dayenu Circle. We can each become less of an individual by becoming part of the movement to mitigate climate change in whatever ways we are personally able to do. Activism may not be typical for you. As Bill McKibben, speaking on Hebrew College's podcast, said, "The earth is outside of her comfort zone, so we must be too." Recycling and taking shorter showers and eating less red meat are all helpful habits. But we're not going to recycle our way out of this one. We can't turn back the clock to prevent dangerous global warming, but we can slow that clock down by urging our governments and our industries to listen carefully to climate scientists and to act immediately on their recommendations. I don't know what all the steps are, right, that the world needs to take, but climate scientists have been studying this for a long time, and they are worth listening to and worth acting on. We can give ourselves more time if we do this to mitigate those effects of what we have already wrought. Both we and the earth need to rest from our human carbon dioxide exuding, resource stripping, planet cooking habits. We need time and we need space to cool down. We need to return to the integrity of air, water, land, and practice that help support life on earth. And Baruch Hashem, thank God, we have a model for this kind of rest and renewal in our Jewish texts. We have the Shemitah year, which begins actually this year in our Jewish calendar. This is the first day of the Shemitah year. Every 7 years, the Torah tells us, you're going to have a year of rest for the land and for the animals, rest from cultivation and rest from labor. Debts are forgiven and things put in pawn are redeemed. This past year of our American Jewish lives, hemmed in by COVID-19 and its restrictions, has been a year of enforced pause, but it hasn't been what I would call fallow. It hasn't been a rest that helps growth. We've all been in survival mode. Shemitah is coming to let us be fallow when we need to most. We need time for the seeds of this year of reckoning have germinated. We have been acting from fear, we've been acting from survival instinct, we've acted from adrenaline rather than from reflection. Our discourses also have lurched towards scorched earth tactics, with people getting angrier and angrier with each other online without that precious hydration of just seeing one another, having a cup of coffee, going for a walk together. So we need more time. And Yom Kippur is called Shabbat Shabbaton by God, this Shabbat of Shabbats. And Shabbat and Shemitah, as you might have guessed, are really intimately related. Shemitah is a longer term version of Shabbat. It's the culmination of a week of years. Shabbat every 7 days, Shemitah every 7 years. One might even say, says Rabbi David Seidenberg, that the purpose of Shabbat is to practice for Shemitah. And so, of course, is Yom Kippur. So if we think about Shabbat as practice for the Shemitah year, there are spiritual practices that Shabbat gives us for living in a world where the climate is changing. When we must at once save what life we can from a burning place, while trying to extinguish the fire, and at the same time, keep up our own spiritual strength, what Jewish tools do we have? We are offered regular practice of rest, connection, and speaking as your cantor, don't be afraid to try prayer in this. We need to make sure that we have what we need without surfeit or waste. The Jewish principle of bal tashchit, don't waste what is growing and what is needful. And sometimes we can even try using less, the way that we fast on Yom Kippur, that can be a practice. Another practice of Shabbat is to stay in community, to ease our hearts by sharing climate concerns and climate action with other people who care about us. We think of Shabbat as a time for rest and abstaining from action, but our need for rest walks hand in hand with our need to preserve life, to band together, to work to put out this fire. The Talmud rules that we cannot work to put out a house fire on Shabbat or even rescue items for it, because Shabbat is more important than saving our stuff. They include even Torah scrolls and other sacred writings. You're not supposed to work to put out a fire, but saving life is more important than refraining from work. And that is where that prohibition evaporates. Rav Chaim Ben-Eviste ruled that because a fire spreads really quickly from house to house, and every place has elderly and sick people who would have trouble evacuating, any house fire, says Rav Ben-Eviste, is a life-threatening danger. Therefore, we violate Shabbos and we extinguish any house fire to avoid that potential threat to life. So we're coming up on a This is a Shemitah year. This is a Shabbat year. What does that mean for us? It means that just like those homeowners in the Talmud, we acknowledge that this Shemitah year is going to be full of work, urgent and difficult work, trying to work with our neighbors to put out these fires in our collective home, trying to rescue every scrap of living holiness that we can. Too often, humans set ourselves up as masters of this earth. We're not. That Midrash told us we're not the masters of this earth. We are one species living here among the glorious biodiversity that God in all of our texts specifically wants and creates for those other species' own sake. We're not the point of the world. We have the privilege to be part of it. The great Spanish Rabbi Moshe ben Maimon, the Rambam, writing more than 900 years ago, wrote that it should not be believed that all the beings exist for the sake of the existence of man. On the contrary, all the other beings too have been intended for their own sakes and not for the sake of something else. Dr. Robin Wall Kimmerer, scientist and author and Native American Potawatomi Nation member, writes in her book, Braiding Sweetgrass, that what happens to one happens to us all. We can starve together or feast together. All flourishing is mutual. The earth wants to flourish. It will always choose life. Mike and I drove into the east side of Glacier National Park over a decade ago. Acres and acres of trees were burned black from a massive fire, charred and stabbing at the sky as far as I could see. But all around their bases, we saw fresh green life springing back up. Our planet has its own drive to survive. The question for us is, how will we help it? Last Thursday, the weather here changed. Maybe you felt it. Suddenly the air was cooler and drier. I walked down my street and in my nostrils, unmistakably, I smelled New England fall, the season I love best, in the place that I love best. Since I was a child, I've gotten an extra rush of excitement and energy as each fall begins. Crisp motes of leaves and sunshine that touches up every red gold color and hardens the sky's blue. The air smells of plant matter going wet and dormant, and the possibility of harvest. We want our children to breathe in the sense of changing seasons as they grow up, not the smoke of a burning world. And we have no time to waste. We can do this. We are a people, we're a species who survived and rebuilt after the flood. If our world and we seize this moment, we may beat down this fire too and co-create the livable future we all desire. In the fallow opportunity of this Shemitah year, let's redeem the future that we have placed in pawn by prioritizing human consumption and dominance rather than contribution and humility. May each one of us find our practical and spiritual niche in the earth-wide ecology of survival and help life in this world flourish for ourselves and the generations of humans and other living beings yet to come. And together we say, Kain Yehi Ratzon. Shana Tova. Please join me in the Sefer Chaim as we get ready to transition into our Musaf service. B'Sefer Chaim Shalom U'Parnasa Tova Nizacher v'nikatev lefanecha Anachnu v'chol amecha Beit Yisrael L'chaim tovim, l'chaim tovim, u'l'shalom. For 4 minutes, take a break, go away from your screen, stretch, use the restroom, have a drink. We'll come back together at 12:30 for Musaf. Shana Tova. Yai dai 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 dai. Ay 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 ay. Ay 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 ay. Ay 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 ay. Yada dai dai dai. Dai dai. Ay, 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 dai, dai. Yada, dai, 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 dai. Oh, ay, 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 dai, dai, dai. Welcome back. I'm Cantor Vera. To my right are Phil Platkow and our rabbinic intern, Ellie Pripas. We're so delighted to have you join us again for Musaf for this first morning of Rosh HaShanah. And our Musaf service will begin on page 266 with the Chatzi Kaddish for Musaf, and then you'll have a few minutes to pray privately from page 268 onwards, and then we'll come back together on page 279 for the Hinani, the Shaliach Tzibur prayer. So for now, page 266. Yitkadal veyitkadash Shemai Rabbo Me'alma Nivrach Hiruti Ve'yamlich Malchuti B'chayechon uvyomechon Uvchaye dechol Beit Yisrael Ba'gala ba'uvizman karib Ve'imeru Amen. Yehi shmech Rabba mevarach le'olam u'l'olmi olmaya Yitbarach ve'yishtabach ve'yitbar ve'yitromam ve'yitnase ve'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekodesha Barichu le'ilahul elah bin kol birchata v'shirata tush bechata v'nechemata damiran bi'olma ve'imeru Amen. We take time for private prayer. הנני אני עממס, נרעשת ונפחדת מפחד יושב תהילות ישראל. באתי לעמוד ולהתחנן לפניך על עמך ישראל אשר שלחוני, אף על פי שאיני כדאית בהגונה לך. לכן נבקש ממך, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק, אלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה. אדוני, אדוני, ירחם וחנון, אלוהי ישראל, שדי היום ונורא, אין מצליח דרכי, אשר אני הולכת לעמוד ולבקש רחמים עליי ועל שולחי. נא אל תפשיעם בחטאותיי, ואל תחייבם בעוונותיי, כי חוטאת ופושעת אני. ואל יקלמו בפשעי, ואל יבושו עמי, ואל אבוש אני בהם. קבל תפילתי, כי תפילת זקין ורגיל, ופרקונה וזקנו מקוטל, וקולו נעים, ומעורב בדעת עם הבריות. והנה דילוגנו עליך, ועל כל פשעים תחסל באהבה. כל צרות ורעות הפכנה לנו, ולכל ישראל לששון ולשמחה, לחיים ולשלום. האמת והשלום יחבו, ואל יהי שום מכשול בתפילתי. יהי רצון מלפניך, אדוני אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה. האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, יחיה אשר יחיה, שיבוא תפילתי לפני כיסא כבודך. בעבור כל הצדיקים והחסידים, התמימים והישרים, ובעבור כבוד שמך הגדול והנורא, כי אתה שומע תפילת עמך ישראל ברחמים. ברוך אתה שומע we turn to page 280 for the words of the psalmist that will begin the repetition of our Amidah for Musaf.
Yananana satai tiftach. Yananana hufi yagid. Hufi yagid tehilatecha. Yananana Adonai. Yananana satai tiftach. Yananana hufi yagid. Hufi yagid tehilatecha. Yananana Adonai. Yananana satai tiftach. Yananana hufi yagid. Hufi yagid tehilatecha. Yananana Adonai. Yananana satai tiftach. Yananana hufi yagid. Hufi yagid tehilatecha. Reinu lechaim, melech hafetz b'chaim, v'chodreinu b'sefer ha'chaim, v'moncho Elohim chaim, chaim. Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo.
Magen Avraham uvokei tzara.
Amen.
Ata gibor leolam Adonai. Mechayim etim ata Rav Rashia. And we're on page 280. I apologize, I didn't call that out before. Mechakel
Chaim b'chesed, v'chaim mitim v'rachamim rabim. Tzarech nochim v'rofeh cholim u'atir asurim. Omekayem emunato l'shenei afar. Mechamocha kar gevurot u'mitoelah. Melech Yeimit u'mechayeh u'melech Yeshua. Michamocha harachamim zocher yitzura v'chaim v'rachamim v'ne'eman atah le'achayot meitim. Baruch atah Adonai Baruch Hu Shemo.
mechayei hameitim.
Amen.
To open the ark for Unatanet Tokef, which starts on page 282, I call up Rena Roseman. And we will be led in the first paragraph by our choir. וחוטא וחוטאים וסופר ומונה ותזכור כל הנשכחות ותפתח את ספר הזיכרונות ומאליו יקרא וחותם יד כל אדם בו ובשופר גדול ייתקע וכל דממה דקה יישמע ומלאכים יחפזון וכילורתה יוחזון ויאמרו הנה עומדים לפקוד על צבא מרום בדין כי לא יזכו בעיניך בדין וכל באי עולם יעברון לפניך כבני מרום כבקרת רועה מעביר צאנו תחת שבטו כבקרת רועה מעביר צאנו תחת שבטו כן תעביר ותספור ותמנה ותפקוד נפש כל החי ותחתוך קצבה לכל בריאה ותכתוב את גזר דינם בראש השנה ייכתבון וביום צום כיפור ייחתמון בראש השנה ייכתבון וביום צום כיפור ייחתמון בראש השנה ייכתבון וביום צום כיפור ייחתמון כמה יעברון וכמה יברעון מי יחיה ומי ימות מי בקיצו ומי לא בקיצו מי באש ומי במים מי בחרב ומי בחיה בראש השנה ייכתבון וביום צום כיפור ייחתמון בראש השנה ייכתבון וביום צום כיפור ייחתמון מברב ומבצמה מבראש ומבמגפה מבחניקה ומבסקילה מינוח ומינוח מי שקט אשר מי שפל ומי ערום
ותשובה ותפילה וצדקה מעבירים את הדור הגזרה.
כי כשמך כן תהי לוסך כשליחוס ונוח לרצות כי לוסך בץ ומוסמיס כי אם בשובה מדרכה וחיה ועד ימוסו תחכה לו אם יושב מיד תקבלו אמס כי אתה יוצרם ואתה יודע יצרם כי הם בשר ודם אדם יסודה מעופר וסופו לעופר מנפשו יביא לחמו משל כחרס הנשבור כחציר יבש וכציץ נובל כצל עובר וכענן קלה וכרוך נשבס וכאבק בריח וכחלום ואתה הוא מלך חי וקיים. We continue on page 288 with the Kedusha. Please remain standing in body or in spirit. נריצך ונקדישך כסוד שיח שרפי קודש המקדישים שמך בקודש ככתוב ינביאך וקרא זה אל זה ואמר
קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלוך על הארץ כבודו
מה לעולם משרתיו שואלים זה לזה איה מקום כבודו לעומתם ברוך יאמרו
ברוך כבוד אדוני
ממקומו הוא יפן ברחמים ויחון העולם המייחדים שמו, ערב ובוקר בכל יום תמיד, פעמיים יבוא שמה אומרים,
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Hu
Eloheinu, Hu Avinu, Hu Malkeinu, Moshienu. Hu Eloheinu, Hu Avinu, Hu Malkeinu, Moshienu. Hu Yashmienu, Berachamav Shenit. Hu Yashmienu, Berachamav Shenit. Leinei Kol Chai
ישרות לכם לאלוהים, אני
Adonai
ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהי ציון. אדיר אדירנו, אדוני אדוננו, מאדיר שמך בכל הארץ, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יחיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד, ובדברי קודשך כתוב לאמור.
Yimloch Adonai leolam, Elohai Yitzion, ledor vador, Hallelujah.
You may be seated if you wish. We're at the bottom of page 288, and our choir with me will lead us in Ledor Vador. We turn now to page 297 for All the World Shall Come to Serve Thee. And please sing along again with our choir.
Vera, I'm so sorry. I don't have this video.
Okay, then we will sing it here and you folks should sing along.
All the world shall come to serve thee, and bless thy glorious name, and thy righteousness triumphant, the island shall proclaim, and the people shall go seeking, who knew thee not before, and the ends of earth shall praise thee, and tell thy greatness o'er. They shall build for thee their altars, their idols overthrown, and their graven gods shall shame them, as they turn to thee alone. They shall worship thee at sunrise, and feel thy kingdom's might, and impart thy understanding to those astray in night. They shall testify thy greatness, and of thy power speak, and extol thee shrined uplifted beyond the highest peak, and with reverential homage of love and wonder born, with the ruler's crown of beauty, thy head they shall adorn. With the coming of thy kingdom, the hills shall break into song, and the islands laugh exultant that they to God belong. And through all thy congregations, so loud thy praise shall sing, that the uttermost peoples hearing shall hail thee, crowned King.
We turn now to page 304, and I invite you to rise in body or in spirit, and really, if you feel up to it, to rise in body for this Grand Aleinu and to join me in a full prostration. We do this just 3 times a year. And every Rosh HaShanah and every Yom Kippur, there is something incredibly comforting and supportive about feeling the ground coming up I'll speak for myself, to meet me and to feel held in the palm of the Kadosh Baruch Hu's hand. So if you would like to, please join me in that physical act this morning, and we are on page 304. Aleinu l'shabeach l'Adon hakol l'atid gedol yotzir bereshit shelo asanu ארצות, ולא שמענו כמשפחות אדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Yanai na nai nai yanai na nai nai yanai na nai nai yanai na na nai yanai na nai nai yanai na na nai yanai na nai nai yanai na na nai 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 yai nai 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 yai nai nai
We turn in our supplements to page 15, and Robin Zaremba will lead us in the reading of this Yiddish poem.
Shana Tova, dawning in every one of my limbs, written by Malka Lee. You dawn in every one of my limbs, my child. I'm drenched with you like a tree with wind. I grow with you down to the roots of my body. You stir within my flesh, like the world awakening from slumber. Your voice whispers through every nook, through every trail. You sing in me wherever I go and wherever I am. Your dawn sunbeams through me. You wind through me with your every fiber. I am filled with you like the sun with light. So dawns a child through my lustrous glow.
We turn to page 310, and I invite back up our Baal Tokea, President Lauren Goldstein, to blow shofar for us. And please rise in body or in spirit as we do when we hear the shofar's call. Tekiah. Shvarim Torah. And our choir will lead us on that same page in Areshet Sufatenu. Areshet Sufatenu Yarad Panecha Eram Nisa. Areshet Sufatenu Yarad Panecha Eram Nisa. Maybe the Mazi Mavi to Mashi. Sede And at the bottom of page 310, Hayom Harat Olam, as several rabbis, most lately Rabbi Gordon Tucker, has given this teaching. This day is pregnant with eternity. The seeds of eternity are in what we do together on Rosh HaShanah. Hayom harat olam, hayom yamid b'mishpat. Kol yitzurei olamim, kol yitzurei olamim, im gevanim, im gavadim, im gevanim rachameinu, krachemav al banim, aval banim, ve'im ka'avadim eineinu lecha teluyot, ad shetchoneinu, ad shetchoneinu, ותוציא כאור משפטנו, היום, היום וקדוש, היום, היום, היום קדוש. Please be seated. We move from Malchuyot, from sovereignty and authority and power, to Zichronot, the power of memory, the power of being recalled for good, even when it's complicated. And we turn to page 314. I'm going to chant the 3 verses from Psalms for Zichronot in the middle of page 314. ובדברי קודשך כתוב לאמור, זכר עשה לנפלאותיו, חנון ורחום אדוני. ונאמר, טרף נתן לרעיו, יזכור לעולם בריתו. ונאמר, ויזכור להם בריתו, וינחם קרוב חסדיו. I invite Teresa Brugman up to read at the bottom of your supplements, page 15, the poem How We Are Lived.
Trying to untangle the mask from my earring. How we are lived. Do you bring lost holographs from your cave? Do you bring me your stories and sleep? The hill is bare where my father lies. No weight breaks the great heart there. Love, I bring you words, dry stones, small rain on a field, thirst like yours. Martin Brookhuizen, 1976.
As we have done in previous years, we'll take a few minutes to remember our loved ones who are gone and to each take a stone and place it somewhere where you'll see it for these 10 days. Might be somewhere in your home. Those of you who are here in the sanctuary, if you want to come up, there's stones there, and just one at a time or by household, take a stone and find somewhere you'd like to place it. And David will play for us as we do so. So hold your people, hold their names. Feel free to speak them aloud if you want. The shofar carries their voices with ours, and we turn to page 320 and rise in body or spirit to listen to the sound of the shofar again. Tekiah. Shvarim teruah. Tekiah. Please be seated. And with that cry, we come to our third theme of shofarot. What is calling out to us? What calls can't be ignored? What feels most urgent to us in this year? So as you listen to the voices of covenantal shofarot in these verses to come, I invite you to think about what calls to you with that strength this year and what call you feel you are going to want to answer. And you will find those verses on page 322.
Yotze Moshe et ha'am likrat Elohim mincha hamachaneh v'yityatzvu b'tachti tahar.
קול השופר הולך וחזק מאוד, משה ידבר והאלוהים יעננו בקול.
וכל העם רואים את הקולות ואת הלפידים ואת קול השופר ואת ההר השן וירא העם ויענו ויעמדו merahok.
And as we listen to our third set of shofar blasts here on page 326, see what the sound of the shofar reveals to you in this moment. Please rise in body or spirit in the middle of 326. Shvarim teruah. Tekiah. May we all merit to follow the sounds of our most deep inner shofars and the needs and opportunities that HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts in the world for us in this year and in every year to come. We turn to page 332, and it's now Phil and Ellie and my privilege to bless you with the priestly blessing, the Birkat Kohanim. So put your body in whatever position is most comfortable to receive blessing. If that's sitting down, great. If it's standing up, great. And we are on page 332.
Lord bless you and keep you.
King Yehiratzon.
May the Lord show their countenance to you and be gracious to you.
King Yehiratzon.
Shalom, shalom, shalom. V'yasem lecha, v'yasem lecha. Shalom, shalom, shalom.
May the Lord turn their countenance to you, and may they grant you a full life of joy, love, and peace. Peace for you, for all Israel, and for all humankind. And let us say,
King Yehiratzon.
Page 334, Sim Shalom.
Sim shalom, sim shalom tova uvracha. Sim shalom tova uvracha. Chen v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael amecha. Orcheinu avinu klanu k'yechad v'yor panecha. Ay, sim shalom tova uvracha. Sim shalom tova uvracha. V'yor panecha natata lanu Adonai Eloheinu. Torat chaim v'achavat chesed Staka vracha v'rachamim v'chayim Shalom. Ay, sim shalom. Sim shalom tova uvracha. Sim shalom tova uvracha. V'tov b'einecha leborech et tamecha Yisrael. B'chol leit u'v'chol shah b'shomecha. Ay, sim shalom. Sim shalom tova uvracha. Sim shalom tova uvracha.
Baruch at Adonai, shalom. We turn now to page 336 for Hayom Ta'amatzeno, and I invite up Jake Jacobson to open the ark for us for this prayer. Hayom, 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 hayom ta'ametzenu, amen. Hayom, 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 hayom,
Lecheinu. Amen. Ayom, 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 ayom to God Aleinu. Amen. Ayom, 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 ayom. Ayom, ayom, ayom titrushenu letova. Amen. Ayom, 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 ayom tichabenu lechayim tovim. Amen. Ayom, 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 ayom tishma Shabbatenu. Amen. Ayom, 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 ayom tukabel berachamim uvrazon et tefilenu. Amen. Ayom, 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 ayom titmachenu bimin tzidkecha. Amen.
We turn now to the Kaddish Shalem that concludes our Musaf Amidah, and you will find it on page 338. Phil and our choir will lead us in it. invite up now Ann Jacobson to open our ark. Ann and Jacob. As we prepare to chant the Aleinu, which is on page 342 in your Machzor.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'tent gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoye haratzot, v'lo samanu k'mishpachot adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, v'gor aleinu kehol hamonam, ve'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu. Shehu notei shamayim ve'yoser haaretz, u'moshev yikaro b'shamayim mimahal, u'shchinotu zo v'gavhei meromim, u'Eloheinu ein hod, emet malkeinu efes ulato, ככתוב בתורתו, מדעת היום והשבת אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. We turn to page 346 for the Kaddish Yatom as we remember those whom we love and say this prayer of praise to buoy ourselves with our memories of them. If you are in mourning, if you are recalling a yahrzeit, an anniversary of death, or if it's your custom to rise for Kaddish and to say it for those who no longer have family who can say it for them, please rise in body or in spirit and join me on page 346. And if you wish, before or after we say this prayer, you're welcome to put names of people who you are thinking of today into the chat so everybody can know them and see them. We say together, Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemech Rabbah, ve'alma divrach chirutei ve'amlich malchutei, v'chaye echon u'v'yom echon u'v'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shemech Rabbah mevarach le'alam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmeh tekudsha parichu. La'ela u'le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shalom Rabbah min shemaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshevei tevel v'imru amen. May their memories be for a blessing. Please be seated as the choir sings Ose Shalom for us. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for celebrating this first day of Rosh HaShanah together. Our celebrations continue with Tashlich. If you have a supplement, there are tools for a personal Tashlich in there, but we also hope you'll join us for Tashlich hikes at 4 p.m. and then a Tashlich service at 5 p.m. by the lake. And tomorrow morning, we're back together at 9 o'clock in here for our morning service. And then the Torah service will start again at 10:45. There is no Musaf service tomorrow. Instead, Phil is going to lead a wonderful Musaf discussion at 1 p.m., all on Zoom, same link as you've been using for this. So we hope that you will join him for a stimulating and educating and spiritual discussion for that. And then, of course, that we will see you back again at Yom Kippur, if not before. We're going to end our service with Adon Olam on page 348, followed by a wish from the choir. And I also want to just thank everybody who has put so much into making these services come together, from our wonderful Zoom tech, Shelley, to the choir, to the staff, to the volunteers, the High Holiday Committee, members of the Chesed Committee and the Ritual Practices Committee, and so many folks, including a really strong effort by the board to bring our community together in this utterly crazy time so that we can pray together and take joy and renewal together as one community in this holiday. Bill.
Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Li'et Nasa B'chefso Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra V'acharei Tichlot HaKol Livado Yimloch Nora V'hu Haya V'hu Hove V'hu Yiyeh B'tifara V'hu Echad V'yein Sheni Le'amshir Lo Le'achbira B'li Reshit B'li Tachlit V'lo Haz Ve'amisra V'hu Eli V'chai Goali V'tzur Chevli B'yetzara V'hu Nisi Umanos Li Minat Kosi V'yom Ekra Beyado Avkid Ruchi V'et Dishan V'yaira V'yimruchi Giviyati Adonai Li V'lo Ira Adon Olam Asher Molach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Li'ed Nasa V'chefso Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra.
And a final choral wish to you. The sound's not coming through. Could we try putting the sound up?
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova Umetuka Lachem Belachem. Everybody should have a sweet and good start to the new year. Hope to see many of you back at Tashlich and tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a beautiful rest of your first day of Rosh HaShanah. This concludes our service. We're going to close down the Zoom call.
Shana Tova.
And thank you, David, for some beautiful, beautiful playing.